Hello everyone, welcome to TechCraft Studio, and today we're upgrading this huge PC. This case is so big, I couldn't get it to fit into the frame, so you guys can only see part of it, but we will go into detail with this build very shortly. So the reason why I'm upgrading this PC is because of the new Ryzen Threadripper that was just launched last month. This is something that I really wanted and look forward to for at least 1 year. And I did budget this for 1 year. I saved up money throughout the whole year. And this is the moment. Currently I am editing on 1080p, but eventually I would like to move to 4K sometime this year before summer. And this processor is currently working well for my needs, but when I move on to 4K, I anticipate that this processor will start struggling. And it's also just that I'm a hardware enthusiast and I love technology, and the Ryzen Threadripper 3000 is really something I was looking forward to for 1 year. So this computer, I nicknamed it Uberbox because it is the shape of a box and it's full of Uber stuff. I know it's cheesy, but please bear with me. Okay, with that said, let's switch to first person point of view right now. Wait, what? Let's try this again. Right now. Okay, so here we are in first person point of view. And the first thing I want to mention is that I already drained the loop and I already started the disassembly. But before I want to completely disassemble it, I want to go over with you guys where we're starting from. And you will notice that the RAM here from my previous video, if you have not seen it, I'll link it to the description below. But I already converted all these Trident Z RAM kits here to the EKWB Monarch block in preparation to water cool it. The first and the main star of the show is the 1950X that is mated with the Asus ROG Zenith Extreme. And I also have the EKWB monoblock paired with this CPU. This is a great monoblock. I do know there were some issues on the first revision, but they did send me the revised jet plate for this block. And so the CPU actually runs a little bit better and a little bit cooler because of the new revision. And the second star of the show is my graphics card, which is the Radeon 7, also water cooled with the EKWB block with a great copper finish here. And I do have braided cables by CableMod. These are custom colors that I picked to match my loop, and you will see in the final build that I will still stick with blue and yellow for the colors. And here I do have two SSDs NVMe. The first one is the 500 gigabyte from my scratch drive, and then there's actually one on the bottom right here. Hopefully you can see it, is a 2 terabyte where I can store my other media such as games. And under this chipset right here, there's also another SSD that has a 1 terabyte, also a 970 EVO for my boot drive, where I also store my programs and Windows. And not to mention before I forget, this whole case is the Thermaltake 900 Tower. I love this case. The first time I saw it, I knew I had to have it, mostly because of how huge it is and all of the customizations I could do with it. And down here I have two screens that actually tell me the temperature of the water, and I actually have the fans mapped to this temperature. So instead of having it mapped to a CPU temperature or GPU temperature, which does fluctuate and it does make my fans go up and down and it does get annoying, so I have it mapped to the water so it's more consistent. Okay, so let's move on to how the loop is set up. So currently I have a second chamber in the case, which we will see shortly. The cooled coolant goes through here, and then it goes through the component, in this case the GPU, and it goes back to the reservoir. Okay, so back here, the coolant from the reservoir goes into this radiator. So in the back, I do have two Nemesis Black Ice GTX radiators, 560 millimeters each, with a push-pull setup with Corsair ML 140 fans. So each side has 8 fans with a total of 16 fans in the back. And I do have the fan controller up here, hopefully you can see it, where it is controlled to via the motherboard, and the temperature, as mentioned earlier, is mapped to the water coolant. And then you have the temperature probe right here, hopefully you can see it, where the coolant goes through right here, and then there's a temperature to measure the temperature of the water, which is also displayed in the front of the case. The CPU side does not have it yet, and for this upgrade I do plan to install one as well, so we're consistent on both sides. And for the power supply, it's the AX850. It's a pretty old power supply, but it is pretty reputable and it has treated me well, so I'm going to be carrying this over for my new build. And how this loop is drained is there are 2 drain ports for each side, and in the previous video, if you have not seen it, please see the link below. It uses 2 drain loops right here. So I have one for the reservoir and the first half of the radiator, and this part is for the second half of the radiator, because the radiator is actually broken into 2 phases. There's actually a first half and second half where the coolant flows through. And if you need more detail on that, please see the video in the description. So the reason why I am water cooling my RAM is because there's not much airflow going through this case, and the only one is this fan up here, but it doesn't directly cool each RAM module consistently. So the ones furthest away actually overheat the most, and that led to instability issues. So I had to lower my clock speeds to 2933 megahertz out of the rated 3200 megahertz. Okay, with that said, in this brief tour of this build, let's move on to the disassembly montage.